Another thing that happened over the weekend, Kevin Stefanski becomes the second coach off the board. He gets the Falcons job. Ian Rapoport talking about Stefanski becoming that second coach off the board in the coaching cycle.
Stefanski was the guy for the Atlanta Falcons. I know the Tennessee Titans had interest. I know the Miami Dolphins had interest. This one makes complete sense. They really have been looking for a master on the offensive side of the ball here. So that is what they're getting, plus a two-time Coach of the Year. And, Rich, his staff is already coming together. Jeff Ulbrich is going to stay on as defensive coordinator. Tommy Rees, likely to be OC. He was with him in Cleveland. And then Bill Callahan, sources tell the insiders, likely to be the offensive line coach for the Falcons.
It's kind of interesting, Scott, that Bill Callahan goes back to him, kind of makes you kind of scratch your head a little bit. The other thing, Drew Petzing is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Lions. They're in advanced talks. So that's a pretty good chunk of Kevin's coaching staff that's finding work elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to the respect that Kevin has across the league. You know, I think owners and GMs look at him and say, this is a smart guy that handles himself well, that can mentor coaches, develop coaches. We saw that with Petzing. You know, he took Petzing under his wing in Minnesota, brought him to Cleveland, advanced him from tight ends coach to quarterback coach. Then he goes out to Arizona as the coordinator. So I think that just speaks to how highly regarded Kevin is around the league. And what else speaks to that is the fact that he was a candidate for every job that opened, and it took less than 2 weeks for the Falcons to say, we want this guy. So despite going 8-26 over the last 2 years, despite being fired by the Browns, teams looked at him and said, we're looking at the bigger picture, which is two-time Coach of the Year, took the Browns to the playoffs twice, was in entered an unstable franchise and brought stability and continuity and respectability. Didn't have a quarterback the last 2 years, right? Like all these explanations or reasons for why the Browns weren't good that last couple of years. And plenty of fans said, hey, it's Kevin's fault. And we were talking about, well, is it really Kevin's fault? I think the league said, no, it's not. And they expect him to learn from any mistakes or the mistakes that he made in Cleveland and be better in his second tenure. And Atlanta's all in on that.
Yeah, and that's a team with a lot of young talent. And the other thing it tells you is the league perception of Kevin Stefanski is very different than the Cleveland fan base's perception of Kevin Stefanski.
There's no doubt. And I also think the league's perception of the Browns is what it is. And by that I mean they look at it and go, hey, it's never been a great situation. And it looks better now than it did 6 years ago when Stefanski and Andrew Berry got hired. But I think they take that into account and said, hey, if you can have success in Cleveland, you can have success in Atlanta or Baltimore, all the other teams that interviewed Kevin Stefanski.
This one's from your mailbag. I'm curious. Anything surprised you about Stefanski firing?
Not really. I mean, not after we, heard it was coming. The only thing, and we've talked about 100 times, is I was personally would not have separated Kevin Stefanski from Andrew Berry. I get that that's the way it was going to go. And, I had heard that enough over the last week leading up to the Stefanski firing that I thought Andrew Berry would stay, but I was still mildly surprised that he didn't take the fall as well for the recent struggles.
Yeah, I get it. The 8 wins is the 8 wins. And that's, eventually something happens because of that. But the other thing is 10 openings now, and it's just not a great time to be looking for a head coach.
Well, I was going to say that, Dave, that to me, and I know each owner probably looks at it, his or her situation differently, but the fact that there are 10 openings this year, or there have been 10 openings this year, I think it speaks to how ownership views that position. And I think if the fan base has grown weary of their head coach, then the owners listen to that. I think if the owners have grown tired of it to whatever degree, then it's, hey, make a move. And that's just, things have changed so much in the last decade, 15 years, wherever you want to start that timeline. The owners view this as entertainment to some degree. They want to be in the news. They want to be creating buzz and headlines, and changing coaches does that. And if you're willing to bite the bullet on the, tens of millions of dollars that you're going to have to pay your fired coach, then you can be in the cycle and you can try somebody new and see if that works. I don't recommend that as an organization. We've seen it too many times here. But when you have this kind of turnover, and 10 is more than normal, but 6 to 8 is normal in the NFL offseason, I think it just speaks to the culture and the way collective ownership is thinking. And therefore, I think it's difficult to judge, is a coach worthy of getting fired or not, because everybody's getting fired.